Welcome to Investor's Guide. You're watching ET Now. This is a show that has been holding your hand through the investment market for the last 5 years. Now, they say you need money to make money, and on this show, we'll help you do just that. There's an email ID at the bottom of your screen where you can send in any question at all that you have about your money. Now, before we start the show this week, I must tell you that for Diwali next week, we're focusing, and I know you're going to enjoy this, on gold, investing in gold, buying jewelry, anything you want to know, send us a question and we'd be glad to answer that question for you this festive season. On the show this week, we'll tell you where you should invest your money to create a corpus to buy a home within the next 2 years. In our product review, we take a look at the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 and we'll tell you where you should invest your money if you're nearing retirement. All right, let me bring in Dhirendra Kumar, the CEO of Value Research. Dhirendra, thank you so much for joining us on Investor's Guide. Let's get straight to our portfolio question. Well, 24-year-old Ankit has written in, Dhirendra. He's an IT professional, only 2 months old on his first job, and he wants to now start putting money aside. Now, he tells us he has 8,000 rupees to invest every month, which is very impressive for someone his age, that he's putting away money so early. But he only has a 2-year time horizon because he wants to buy a home in 2 years. Now, I worry a little bit that Ankit might be wanting to run before he walks. Now, do you think it's wise for him to start off with a home as his first asset? Would you like him to take smaller steps first, an emergency fund perhaps, take a look at his insurance needs and then start working towards putting money aside for a home?
No, planning for your home early is not a bad idea, but keep in mind that don't think of it as an investment. And the moment you think of buying your home, you should be able to substitute with, you should be able to save on your rental income. You should start, you should have some time frame in which it'll start saving you money. So that way it will be a more productive investment. But I think before that, you should certainly think of, having the emergency fund, the money which you can access anytime, and also just in case you lose your jobs. The ground rule is that don't stretch beyond a point. Make sure that you're thinking of a house for which you will contribute at least 20% initially. So I really wonder that 8,000 rupee worth of recurring deposit, how much will it accumulate? It's unlikely that you'll be planning to buy a house for worth 10 lakh rupee. It's bound to in any major city it's bound to cost more.
Well, Dhirendra, if he is looking at buying that home and he seems to have a very firm belief in fixed income because he's talked about the fact that he's considering PPF, NSE, debt funds and LIC policy, would you recommend he perhaps widen the horizon of the investments he's looking at? And for someone his age, should he have a little more faith in equity at this point?
If he's saving for his retirement or a need which will be 10-15 years away from now, then he has to consider equity. If he's thinking of 2 years, 3 years time frame, he should not consider equity and it should entirely be fixed income. So for your long-term investment, don't think of safe investment, because equity is very safe if you are investing for many years. It is very risky if you are investing for very a shorter time frame.
For the money that he's putting away for 2 years, then is a recurring deposit the best way to go, or should he be considering the PPF or the NSE? They all seem like they might have longer lock-ins than the 2 years that he's looking at.
For sake of simplicity, I would suggest he should go for a recurring deposit or post office, recurring deposit.
For Ankit and for all of our viewers who are in that age group of 24 or 25, I want to quickly give you a recap of the advice that Dhirendra just gave us. You have to start with an emergency fund that has a few months worth of your expenses in case you lose your job. You have to have health insurance, you have to have life insurance. Then when you start investing, divide your goals long-term and short-term. Short-term goes into fixed income and long-term goes into equity. And Dhirendra, they're suggesting for Ankit in particular, 2-year horizon, a recurring deposit would possibly be the best way to go. Our next question comes in from a woman investor. Priyanka writes in, Dhirendra, now she tells us she recently withdrew 73,000 rupees from her employee provident fund account. She wants to know where she can invest this money to get good returns. So first of all, she's pulled that tax-free money out of her employee provident fund. Where can she invest this money at this point? Should she be looking at that lump sum or breaking it up over the next 1 year?
I would say that, if you are unlikely to need this money for a few years then it will be a good idea to be investing in something, which is equity oriented. And if you have never invested in equity before, then it could be, you should approach it very conservatively. So I would suggest money for a few years, you should consider a balanced fund. and don't invest at one go. At least spread this investment over the next 6 months.
All right, Dhirendra, could you quickly give her one balanced fund that she could use at this point?
If I have to choose one or two, I would say ICICI Prudential Volatility Advantage Fund, which is a balanced fund. That apart, even Franklin India, FT India Balanced Fund is a good conservative choice.
On your screen right now, balanced funds that Dhirendra has recommended. I'm going to keep it up on the screen a little while so you can write those down. These are for anyone who's looking for a conservative approach to equity. Well, we have time for one last question in this segment before we take a break. Jahangir has written in. He began investing in the HDFC Balanced Fund about 8 months ago. He tells us his risk appetite has grown, like he predicted, from conservative to moderate. He says he now wants to start another SIP for 2,500 rupees a month with a horizon of 5 to 10 years. He wants to know where he should be investing this money to create long-term wealth, and should he continue to hold on to that HDFC Balanced Fund investment, or should that be upgraded as well? Dhirendra, what's your recommendation for someone who wants to increase his risk allocation at this point?
Continue investing patiently. Don't get venturesome. Don't get into mid and small cap fund or anything which is all equity. You are just an 8-month-old investor, and your experience has been good, which is a very fortunate situation in this kind of market. Carry on for another 2 years, and then get venturesome. And then get venturesome with a incremental allocation into such aggressive fund, because we could be in for a far greater volatility. Our market has gone up very sharply in recent past, and the moment you move your money and you are faced with a decline, the whole belief which you are developing will be derailed, and you will have again a sense of horror and disbelief, which is very undesirable. Carry on for some more time. Add one more balanced fund. If I have to suggest one or two, I would say the same funds, FT India Balanced Fund or ICICI Prudential Volatility Advantage Fund.
All right, there's two balanced funds popping up one more time. And I think the main message in this segment has been to take baby steps and start small, irrespective of what age group you're in or where you're starting off. If you're a new investor, take smaller bites of equity and start slowly so you can build up an appetite. Coming up after the break, we're going to get Dhirendra Kumar to stay back and talk to us about the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96. We'll find out if this is a fund we should stay invested in. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Investors Guide in ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Dhirendra Kumar is with us as well. It's time for us to look at the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 Fund. I'm going to first ask Avan to give us a quick introduction into how that fund has been performing, and then we'll come back and talk to Dhirendra about it. Avan.
Thanks for that, Faye. Well, as the name suggests, our fund under the spotlight this week is one of the oldest tax saver funds in the market. The Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 was launched as a close-ended fund in 1996, and its first 3 years were absolutely blockbuster. But ever since then, its track record has been patchy. During the rally in 2003, the fund outperformed the BSE 200, but in 2008, it could not moderate its fall and gave its investors a return of a minus 50% compared to its peers. The fund has given its investors 17% annualized returns over the last 10 years. Now, while that is higher than the Sensex, it barely beats the category average. Amongst its category average, the fund ranks 37th position and has failed to be an outstanding performer for quite some time now. So let's do some math to give you a better point of view. If you invested 1,000 rupees in this fund when it launched, you would have 7,897 rupees today. So is it time to pull your money out? Our experts are here to give you the answer. With that, it's back to you, Faye.
All right, Avan, thank you for that information. Dhirendra, Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 has been underperforming its category for a while. It does have a long track record, but off late, would you say that it's lost a lot of that luster?
Yes, it has, speedily it has actually gained mediocrity. And it is not a disappointing fund, and it is not the outstanding fund. I think the best period of this fund was, the first 3 years. When it was launched in 1996, in the first 3 years, it actually went up by 10 times. And that it was a blockbuster in its early years. And it has been a fairly average fund for a long time now. So I don't see it as an outstanding fund, and it has also on occasion been more volatile. So it's not a great choice among the tax saving funds.
But Narendra, for those of us who are still invested in this fund, what's your recommendation at this point? And these are obviously investors who've been holding on for a very long time, but has the time come now to move on from the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96?
Yes, for old-time investors, this is a very large fund, and once in a while it does well. But I think investors will do well. But for investors who are out of that lock-in period, for them it is just another ordinary equity fund.
All right, finally, Dhirendra, your rating of the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96, you gave it 3 stars the last time we talked about it. Does it still have 3 stars in your book?
Yeah, I think it still has 3 stars because it is, I would slot it as an average fund, and that's why the 3 star.
3 stars for the Birla Sun Life Tax Relief 96 on Investor's Guide. It holds those 3 stars. But Dhirendra, they're saying that there are so many better options right now in the market. If you're looking to invest in a tax relief fund, in fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up on your screen the tax funds that Dhirendra has recommended for this year. So if you're looking to save on tax this year, those funds are on your screen. These are the recommendations that he's given us right now. Let's move on to our hold or sell segment. Nagesh has written in from Bangalore. He's 46 years old, Dhirendra, and he's investing in mutual funds to create a retirement corpus and to also help his son set up a business in the future. Now, both of his goals are between 10 to 15 years away, and he currently puts aside 25,000 rupees every month in his portfolio. He sent us a list of that portfolio. He wants to know if it's on track. There's one too many funds for me, for my comfort, but I'm going to try and club them together so we can help him consolidate it a little better. For a 10 to 15 year horizon, let's take his large caps first, Dhirendra. The DSP BlackRock Top 100, the Franklin India Blue Chip and the HDFC Top 200 funds. Of these funds, does he need to have all 3 or would you like him to trim that down?
I would like to trim it down, and HDFC Top 200 has struggled, and it has also changed its character to become a large cap fund. Likewise, DSP BlackRock Top 100 has also been struggling. So if one has to choose one of the large cap fund, it will be Franklin Blue Chip.
All right, so we're keeping Franklin Blue Chip. Now, among his multi-cap funds, Dhirendra, HSBC Equity, Reliance Growth, SBI Contra, and the Templeton India Growth Fund. I'm going to put those together, also because Contra is not much of a Contra fund anymore. Of this lot, which of the ones would you like him to hold on to?
Of this lot, I would like to hold Templeton India Growth only, and the other 3 for their relatively poor performance. But he should drop Templeton India Growth as well, because if he's, building a portfolio, then he should spread his risk and, not have any of these 4 funds.
Well, the rest of the funds on his list are largely mid-cap, and he has Sundaram Select Focus, Sundaram Mid-Cap, and he also has the Birla Sun Life Mid-Cap Fund, Dhirendra. Of these 3, are there any you'd like him to hold on to?
In fact, the only fund which is worth holding is Sundaram Select Mid-Cap. The other 2, he should clearly, stop investing and also pull his money out because they're grossly underperforming. These funds are struggling for a while now.
The last on his list is the SBI Magnum Tax Gain, Dhirendra. He's invested in this in 2011, which means it's still locked in at this point. Now, when it does open up from its lock-in, which will be next year, would you recommend that he holds on to this fund, or should he be moving his money elsewhere?
No, I think looks like, for this fund, the worst seems to be over. This fund was a great disappointment, and now it's beginning to do well. So maybe, by the time he's through with his lock-in period, this fund as well. But, one more year, he has time. Maybe the market recovers and this fund also shows superior performance.
All right, Dhirendra, if we look back now at what he has left in his portfolio after you reviewed it, he has the Franklin India Blue Chip, he has the Sundaram Select Mid Cap and the SBI Tax Gain. Now, that doesn't form too much of a portfolio on its own. What would you like him to do? Because he obviously started off strong with these funds and they've changed color over the last couple of years. How would you like him to go forward as far as creating a fresh portfolio is concerned?
I would say that, he should consider one of the 2 portfolios given his time frame, aggressive growth or the growth portfolio. If he is mapped to one of these 2 portfolios, a periodic review will be useful to him because as you see that, he did start with good funds, which did not prove to be as good when he started. So a periodic review, which we will take care, should be helpful.
All right, on your screen right now is our aggressive growth portfolio. If you have any questions about what you heard on the show so far, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. We have time for one more very quick question. Ramdas began investing 2,000 rupees in an SIP into UTI dividend yield, Dhirendra, and this SIP was begun in 2010. He's unhappy with the returns he's gotten so far. He's saying they're negative. He wants to know if he should continue this SIP or should he pull his money out. Let's talk about UTI dividend yield, Dhirendra. This was a fund that we were recommending on this show while we began the show a few years ago. How would you rate its performance over the last couple of years? Would you say it has slipped or is it still holding on to its mandate?
It's a very desirable fund to have. If you have 3 growth fund, then it is good to have UTI dividend yield fund as well. But if it's the only fund, I think last 1.5 years has been disappointing. But I would not suggest that he should pull out because markets, various segments of the market, they don't do well all the time. And it will not be as disappointing. I think important thing to note here is that UTI dividend yield fund has not done well, but has not done poorly. He has not lost money.
Dhirendra, thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon and answering all of our questions. When we come back from the break, we'll have more questions that you sent in during the week. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Investors Guide in ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's time for me to bring in Vishal Kapoor, who joins us now to answer the questions you sent in during the week. Vishal, it's always such a pleasure to have you answering questions on this show. Our first question comes in from Padmanabhan, who writes in saying he's 57 years old and over the course of his career, he's lost a lot of money in the stock market, in various scams, and he's now with great difficulty managed to put together a retirement kitty of 1.6 crore rupees. That's so impressive. Mr. Padmanabhan, we're so proud of you on this show. He tells us he'll be retiring soon and he doesn't have a home right now. So he wants to be able to generate an income of about 50,000 rupees a month to pay for his rent and his living expenses. So off the corpus he has right now, Vishal, he'd like to invest that money and earn an interest of 50,000 rupees a month. How should he do that?
Mr. Padmanabhan, for the specific objective that you have today, which is to try and earn about 50,000 to a lakh rupees to cover rental expenses and your living expenses from a saved corpus of 1.6 crores, that could actually be quite simply met by having a portfolio of fixed income instruments. Back of the envelope, you need about 7.5% return post-tax, which you could get today just through a tax-free bond or a bond fund or some deposits. So you could have a combination of these products to get you the 7.5% odd return that we need to take care of the current estimated expenses. But herein lies the challenge. The challenge we have is that while that expense will take care of your current estimate of monthly rent and living, keep in mind that we do expect these expenses to continue for at least 20 more years. And therefore, we have to plan for inflation to account for the increase in rent and increase in living expenses that you'll have over the next 20-25 years. If you look at that, you may have to review your portfolio, and we understand that you've lost some money and therefore you're risk averse today. But for a 20-year term, you should introduce some amount of risk, maybe get into a bit moderate portfolio, which will have some element of risk and some amount of fixed income. To basically help you get to a much better outcome over the retirement period that you're planning for today.
All right, we have time for one last question. Vetri Selvan Naidu writes in from Mumbai. He tells us he's 25 years old and he has his money right now in a savings bank account and he's not impressed with the returns. I'm not surprised. Savings bank accounts don't give you much in terms of interest. He wants to invest that money now either in liquid funds or in debt funds. And he's written in, Vishal, very specifically saying he's risk averse. Now, although I'd like someone who's 25 to have slightly more of a risk appetite, for someone who's risk averse, what should he do?
Vetri Selvan, Firstly, since you're already talking mutual funds, I guess the journey that you've begun on investing has already started, which is good news. Now, you are very specific about wanting to invest in ultra short-term funds, so I'll try and name a few that you could look at. You could look at the UTI Treasury Advantage, you could look at the Birla Sun Life ultra short-term fund, you could look at the Reliance Money Manager. These now view are good quality short-term funds that you could consider. Now, it is an interesting time because short-term funds right now seem to be quite advantageously placed as well. So it might be a good time to actually look at these funds. But having said that, you are still 25 years old, and therefore, while you're very sure about what you want to do today, you may want to consider looking at a more diversified portfolio in time. So once you're more comfortable with understanding a bit more of equity risk and other forms of debt investing, you may want to consider a more diversified portfolio than what you're looking for right now.
Okay, we've run out of time. Vishal, thank you so much for answering questions on the show this week. If you have a question for Vishal Kapoor, write to us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen. And you know we're extremely partial to women investors. So if you're watching right now and you send in a question, we'll definitely answer your question on this show. Thanks so much for watching Investors Guide. Remember, you can always reach me on my Twitter account. That's at the bottom of your screen as well. And you'll find a copy of this show on our Facebook page. Thank you for tuning in.